Greetings, Nick with Sweetwater here, and I'm here with a man who needs no introduction. I'm introducing him anyway, Rabea Massaad. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
And by the way, don't worry, I have a guitar, but I'm not going to play it. It's just my security blanket. This guy's going to do all the playing. He did a masterclass here at Sweetwater last night, and all those of you who were lucky and smart enough to be there will know, gave us a myriad of great information. So I want to pick your brains about a few of the questions that were asked at the end that were really good.
Okay.
And the first one was, I really like the way you approach soloing because you kind of play outside of the regular places. And one of the guys said, hey, I'm stuck in the pentatonic box. You're not. How did you find those places? How do you do it?
Big first question.
Yeah.
I like it. To sort of summarize, and then I'll go into a bit more detail, it starts with a familiar ground for me. So it's like, because I don't really have any formal theory training or, never really had proper lessons or anything like that, it was a lot of just discovering it for myself. Similar to your security blanket, so to speak, in this video, my security blanket with regards to improv and playing was position 1 of the pentatonic.
Right.
Don't know why, just is. Maybe it is for a lot of people, but, considering we're now in the key of, well, this is C sharp, drop C sharp.
Right.
So the position 1 would be, for me, here. For me, I'm really comfortable with that, so I start to explore notes close to and then around it to see what cool things I can apply to it, and then always go back there to round it off, So like, these notes that if you hang on them just long enough before going back, it gives that tension and it can just sound a little bit out of the box,
Right.
So like, or whatever, but just exploring where I can move around close to the shape to start with, but then I always know that I'm safe because I can go back to that position. So that was one approach. The other approach with regards to listening for those notes that kind of work but are outside the traditional sort of box would be like, I think I used to do a lot of drone playing.
Let the root ring.
Yeah, so I just let the root note ring out and just start from the octave. So, and I would start moving around just on the one string to see what kind of sounded right, or like, I guess the easiest way to explain that is like, what mood am I going for?
Right.
And before I knew anything about like modes and stuff, because a lot of this later on was a case of connecting dots.
Right.
As I got older and learned a bit more through different sources. But like when I was younger, it would be like, oh, I'm trying to sound, I don't know, Egyptian or mysterious or, tense or anything. So it would start with the... I just start moving this note around, see what kind of works for me. So if I'm thinking that kind of Middle Eastern thing.
Right.
It also boils down to not just sort of playing the notes, but practicing articulating them in different ways, whether that's to do like a...
Right, very sitar-like.
Yeah, or to start sliding around, pick every note, or like start on one and then go to the... hammer overtones, little trills, that kind of thing. So that's just demonstrating it around that one note on one string. But then, you know, the more you practice and the more you start to explore, you start to try and apply that across all the strings.
Right. Yeah, and I guess once you've set the mood, then you start to find the notes at work and it expands upon itself.
And because I'm like I say, because I'm using this drop tuning as my drone, I know that position 1 is my safety blanket. So then I start to apply those sounds that I've got used to hearing to that.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you take it across the neck. Once you find it on one string, then you take the others.
Yeah.
Relative to the box, and all of a sudden you have
other vocabulary, melodically speaking.
An expanded box.
Yeah, that works. But it works. Yeah. But yeah, that's basically what it is. And then because you're training your ear to hear, it's one thing to know where to go on the fretboard, but it's more important, in my opinion, to train the ear to pick those sounds out.
Right.
You know, like the mysterious thing I was telling you about is I learned later on it was a Lydian sound.
Right.
You know, so it's that sharpened fourth, yeah.
Yeah, so you're trusting this as opposed to knowledge and just blindly going, I'll go to this mode now.
Yes, 100%. I've never, ever approached guitar like, I'm going to use this shape, I'm going to use this scale, I'm going to use this mode. Because being completely honest, I can't think that fast. And I don't know. And I also don't know, you know, those positions. Like, if you said, play me, I don't know, C-sharp Lydian, I'd be like, I don't know. Like, it would take me a second to work it out. Or, like, what mode would you use in the key of, like, you know, I don't know. Right. So it's more, for me, I've always approached with my ear first. And then started to branch out from there. Gotcha.
And talking of playing style, I was watching your picking hand very closely. I didn't realize how much and how often you hybrid pick. Is that something you've done for a long time when you're incorporating your fingers as well as your pick when playing fast runs?
I started to really use that, I want to say, like 2014, 2015. I can't remember why I started doing it. I think it was actually Rob that did it quite a bit.
Chappers?
Yeah. And it's not that I didn't do it before, but I didn't really use it as one of the main tools for my playing back then. Right. I think because I'm left-handed.
That's right. You told me, and then you were made to play right-handed. And it works.
Yeah, but when I came back to guitar, like later on in my life, like when I actually took it seriously, like 15, 16 or something, other than just picking up to strum a chord, I always thought that I really need to practice the picking.
Right.
Because I'm left-handed, it took a long time to develop that, you know. So I think that's why I didn't maybe explore other picking techniques for a long time, so I just wanted the synchronicity and stuff. But then I came to use the hybrid picking thing later on just because it just feels comfortable now to... And I don't necessarily think it's something that I'm specifically unique at doing. It's more just I've gotten very, very used to having that extra finger there to pick stuff, and it also from playing a lot of the anytime I'm playing like any of that style stuff, I always have
they say you palm your pick as well. You have that clever little David Blaine trick
apparently. Yeah. Like, and I honestly think that when I learned to do that was from trying to play the Get the Funk Out solo.
Really?
Yeah, I actually think that's why.
Guy.
Because my main source of learning was playing along to songs. Right. You know, I'd learned all my songs, like whether it was, you know, as it started out with things like Metallica and The Darkness and these kind of bands where I would sit and listen to it and rewind it and work it out. And then it moved on to more technical stuff like Extreme. And then I remember learning Get the Funk Out because the whole solo starts with the fast licks and stuff. Right. But then you have to go to the
tapping,
that whole thing or whatever.
So you did the pick trick to enable your tapping, not to do a thumb picking.
Because you're starting there, and then you have to slide down here, and within that slide, you shift across to there so that you can tap. My first memory of doing that, or that becoming a habit, was learning that solo.
So Betancourt's fault.
100%.
Good. So The Darkness, Metallica.
Yeah. Joe Satriani.
Who else influenced you? Who else did you steal from by learning their stuff? Well, not steal from, but get
No,
influence from.
but yeah, like with lead playing, I think it was, I mean, it's hard, it's quite a long time ago now, it's like 20 years ago when I started, you know, maybe 19 years ago when I started properly. I think I've been playing guitar for about 19 years, seriously.
Gotcha.
But I remember, yeah, it started with Master of Puppets because one of the guys working on the house brought a tab book round and told me to learn Metallica. I'd never heard of Metallica.
Really?
Yeah, and he was like, what? I was like, yeah, no, I've never heard of Metallica. I was just playing random stuff in my room. So the next day, he was working on the plumbing in the house. And the next day, he brought a tab book of Master of Puppets with the CD. He's like, educate yourself, like, listen to this band.
Yeah. So your first teacher was a plumber.
Yeah. He's the one that like set me on the way for like lead guitar. And I struggle with the tabs. I still can't read tabs very well, but it was quicker and easier to listen and work it out. So that's what I did. But yeah, so it started with Metallica, and then I remember Darkness was big because they just exploded onto the scene.
Right, yeah.
In a different way to Metallica, Darkness had the bluesy licks.
Yeah.
The bends and the attitude of the you know, the style of playing was really filled with attitude, you know.
Right.
And I thought that, you know, like what a good rock pentatonic solo sounds cool. I don't care what anybody says. Like,
yeah, Angus Young.
it sounds cool. Yeah. So I wanted to do that. So I learned a bunch of the Darkness stuff. And then I felt like somehow the combination of having a bit of the shreddy stuff from Master of Puppets and some of the bluesy, feelsy stuff from Darkness, I felt like I'd kind of mastered those two albums.
Right.
Let's try Extreme. And then that was like years because it's so much harder.
I was going to, from the Darkness, who were great, to Extreme, that's a leap.
Yeah, it was a big leap. And
no detriment to the Darkness at all.
No, it took me a long time. And then, you know, within learning Extreme stuff and getting more nimble with my fingers and all that, it was also the Extremist Joe Satriani album.
Sure, yeah.
I wasn't like around people that were really tuned into guitar, and like my dad liked what he had a few things that he liked, but I didn't really have tons of mates that were into guitar, so there wasn't like, oh, listen to this, check that out. It was just what was around. So that's why I didn't even hear Surfing with the Alien until like years after.
Oh, really?
Extreme.
Really? So your practice was just learning stuff then? Just listening and learning. Do you practice now, or do you still just play songs?
No, I don't feel like I've ever really practiced. Like, I don't sit there, you know, going over down scales and stuff. Like, it's really not, it doesn't interest me, isn't it? It has to feel musical, I guess. Like, if I sit down to play, it's because I want to, like, sort of, you know, connect. It's not to be all hippy-dippy, but, like...
No, I know what you mean, yeah.
Just to connect with what I'm doing, you know, like, it has to be stimulating, you know. I think I've got, like, mild ADHD or something like that, so I have to feel like I'm, you know, into something. So I think with guitar, it's always been, I either want to learn something else, because it sounds wicked, and I want to know what it feels like to play that. And that being said, I haven't sat and learned someone else's stuff for a long time now. Like, I just don't. But it was either I want to learn what it feels like to play that, and through doing that, you learn other techniques.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, try them out.
Like learning Get the Funk Out, I learned to two-hand tap across different strings, you know, passively. I didn't realise. But yeah, I just want to play and explore melodic ideas and just build that vocabulary.
Now, how about nowadays? Is there anyone in particular I know you said you haven't tried to learn anything for ages, but is there anyone who influences you, like of the newer generation of player?
The last kind of, I guess, bigger influence would have been sort of around 2015, 2014, when I heard Philip Sace.
Oh.
You know, because, you know, all the guitar influences I got were through my dad, really.
Right.
And like I had some great, like Extreme. My dad liked Extreme, you know, and then like Dave Gilmour, you know, and Richie Blackmore, you know, these guys were all my dad's heroes. But I didn't hear, like, he didn't listen to Stevie Ray.
Right.
You know, so I missed out on that. I missed out on a bunch of like iconic blues players. But the first one that I heard that really turned my head was Philip Sace, because obviously he sounds like Stevie Ray, but he's got some extra stuff in there.
He plays with such aggression, such passion and aggression.
But also the tunes were good, like that Peace Machine album. Oh. He was a good singer, good riffs, good songs. It was the whole package, not just the playing.
He can sing too. I hate him. I hate him.
And he's got kind of a Lenny Kravitz-y style vocal.
Yeah, he does.
But I heard him and I was like, I want to do that. So I got a Strat. I didn't own a Strat, so I got a Strat and I started like learning to play that style with the fuzz and the feely, bluesy licks. If I was to think hard about what was the last kind of thing that made me go, I want to do that, it would have been him. And then I suppose a couple of years later and I think every guitarist wants to play like Matteo Sasato, like to an extent.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course.
I think it's just that he He's an amazing player, but I think the thing that stuck out for me was up until seeing him on Instagram, you know, guitarists are always playing within a song or in context of a performance or something, whereas he was the first person that exposed me to the concept of sitting and playing on your own and creating these songs by yourself, and there could be free form of time.
Right.
I was always, you know, plugged into other approaches to playing and stuff like that. This first time I saw someone went, he's just playing on his own, and it's like piano players. They can just sit and create music by themselves. It's that kind of thing. I always wanted to do that, but never really kind of tried. And I saw him doing it and thought, I really like that approach. So I'm going to delve into that and see where I get to.
It's funny you brought up Philip Safe, because the first time I heard Philip was, and this is going to sound like a huge name drop, which it is, but when I was working for Marshall, Eddie Kramer walked into the Marshall booth and said, hey, Nick, I'd like you to hear this guy. When Eddie Kramer says he'd like you to hear someone, you pay attention. And Philip plugged a Strat into a 59 Super Lead Plexi with a fuzz face and just tore my face off. And that was, it was glorious. I had to go, I went back to my room and practiced for like 3 hours, because he played with such a passionate aggression. It was mind-blowing. And he's got that song, One Foot Out of the Grave, and that solo, or One Foot in the Grave, and that the solo he plays on that is staggering. One more question, my friend, if you don't mind.
Of course.
You're what I would call, I mean, I'm old school. In fact, to be honest with you, I'm just freaking old.
Okay.
Like when I started playing, there was no internet, there was no YouTube, no Facebook. So you formed a band, you played any toilet that would have you, you had to fly of the town while the police went around, you learnt the police route. Nowadays, it's a whole different thing. And you've said, you know, I've heard you say that you're born of YouTube. And so what my question is, what would your advice be to someone who'd like to follow in your path? Because you've deservedly become extremely successful. I mean, playing Reading and Leeds in front of like 200,000 people over 2 days with Stormzy, I mean, that's amazing. And that's a testament to your talent. And at the risk of being its secret, so what was your drive to go the YouTube route?
I feel like I'm in a kind of crossover generation with that.
Right.
Because when I started playing guitar and learning guitar, there wasn't YouTube, or there was internet, don't get me wrong, but there wasn't, you know, YouTube, or I think the first video platform I found was Google Video.
Oh, really?
You know,
gotcha.
But there wasn't social media even really, you know. So that's why I listened to CDs and rewound them and transcribed by ear, and that's how I started.
Gotcha.
And then when YouTube and stuff came along, it was more out of curiosity to see if I'd learned it right. So I remember I'd search for extreme videos and watch and see how Nuno was playing it compared to how I'd learnt it.
Yep.
And that was cool.
Yeah.
And obviously then YouTube and all that stuff became way more popular, at which point it was like I say, it was around 2011 I met Rob.
Right.
And I had no intention of starting a YouTube channel or anything like that. I just didn't. I was just going to go at it like every other person at the time, like be in a band, hope that you get noticed if you go on tour, and so, you know, like just the archetypal path. But it was when Rob was like, yeah, you should start a YouTube channel, that I did that for a bit and didn't even take that seriously until like 2014. Went down to Brighton, and then it was like, I should probably give this a go, because, you know, like through Rob's platform, he'd kind of got a lot of people to notice. You know, he kind of gave me a bunch of subscribers just through saying, hey, check this guy out, he's good, he's got his own channel, go and check out his videos. So that was a very nice thing to do, but also I felt like there was a certain step up. At least I had like, I don't know, 1,500 subscribers or something. So it was enough to be like, wow, I should really do this seriously. And then started trying to do that from like 2014 really. So I guess, and then taking that seriously, because it's the idea that actually maybe you could earn a living playing guitar, or at least not have to work in an office or a bar going forward. So I think I just had this little glimpse of this could actually work, you know. So I suppose, and the landscape's changed so much now.
I know.
Like that's what I mean by I was in that weird crossover generation, because, you know, when I started taking YouTube seriously, it was still relatively, it wasn't small, but it was less than it is now.
Big, yeah.
And then things like Insta and everything's blown up so much since then that it's now all encompassing every element of it. Whereas before it would maybe just be YouTube, that you saw video content for guitarists and small content creators like myself at the time. So I guess it's kind of hard to fully advise someone who's starting from scratch now because it's changed so much. But what I would say is that because the competition is so high nowadays, it's really important to determine what it is that excites you in making content. So if that's demoing gear, if you really enjoy checking out all these different bits of gear, then that's important because that'll keep you going.
Right.
Or if it's, you know, teaching, then that's important because you'll have more and more fresh ideas. Or if it's just writing songs and sharing the process, whatever it is, as long as it's exciting. And then I think beyond that, it's like, make sure that you set the bar for yourself for the quality that you want to put out there. So if it's like, I don't really think it will work anymore, but like you can't just use like an iPhone on your TV stand and
no,
because you know if you look at all the content, the quality of content creators now and the quality of the videos and the quality of the edits, the sound and everything is you've got to at least go in there and then try and find something in what you do that's unique and add your own spin on it, you know.
Right. And how important is cadence, like being regular, like being consistent?
Yeah, it's really important. It's harder when I find that harder nowadays because I'm traveling and doing other things. So the idea that you have to stockpile like reels for Instagram and YouTube videos is quite stressful at times.
Right.
But it is really important to determine how consistent you want to be and stick to it. So if it's one piece of content a week, fine. But don't make it one every 2 weeks. You just stick to one. You'll start to see that growth. And then if you feel like you've got the capacity to up that, then do that.
Yeah. So it's literally out of sight, out of mind, or out of sight, out of someone's feed. So
I guess as well, it's like, 100%. It's out of sight, out of mind. There's so much content and information that you ingest every single day that people just won't notice if you're not doing it that regularly, but they will notice if you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No.
It's like a job, like full-time job. You have to turn up to work every day, Monday, Friday, 9 to 5. Like,
whether you like it or not, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're going to do content creation as a career, it's not an easy way out. It's actually sometimes more difficult than the security of getting up at 7:30 to get to work for 9. Like,
right.
I sometimes struggle with the sort of self-employed approach where you're your own boss, and sometimes it's hard to
discipline yourself.
Yeah, yeah. You'd always have someone be like, "You better turn up and give me that content."
You're fired.
Yeah. So
you can fire yourself by staying in bed, I guess.
Yeah.
Except no one gives you a pink slip.
No, they don't.
But no one watches your videos anymore. So yeah.
Exactly.
Before we go, one more question, and that's it. I promise. The guitar, it's great.
Thanks, man.
This is your up-and-coming signature, I understand.
Yeah, so earlier this year I announced that I've become an early ball Music Man artist, which is like insane.
Hey, you deserve it.
Thanks, man. I'm super grateful. Brian and everyone there are awesome people.
Yeah, Brian's a great guy, as is his dad.
Yeah, I haven't met his dad yet, but hopefully I will.
He's great.
But they're awesome, and they were really excited at the prospect of working together on a guitar and welcomed me with open arms, so I feel very grateful. But this is prototype 1 of what is going to be an artist model Sabre.
Nice.
So yeah, they threw this together relatively quick.
This
just
is
before
thrown
NAMM.
together, really? Yeah,
well, they had it. So they usually, well, you know how Music Man is. They're really like, their engineering prowess is insane when it comes to guitar manufacturing. But this was an original Sabre body, and they had like an uncarved Sabre neck. So this is, for example, this was done by hand, and the neck carve was done by hand just to get it kind of close to what I'd kind of described over email. The color as well, and like, so it is very much just like, it would have been a stock Sabre.
Gotcha.
But it turned out to be the first prototype. So it was going to change a lot, but it was cool for them to deliver this when I turned up before NAMM this year. So yeah, it's got my silo bare knuckles in it. Of course,
God bless Tim.
Yeah, legend. The spoon cut is really cool. It's going to have a really big carve on the back.
Okay.
So that there's less wood here.
Gotcha.
For me, because I find that to be quite cumbersome.
Gotcha.
So they're going to carve that right back so that I've got more upper fret access. The neck, however it was thrown together, as they said, it was perfect. As soon as I felt it, I was like, no, this is great. So I asked them to have it fatter here and thinner here, which apparently is back to front.
Yes, it is, as a rule, but hey, whatever
works for me. I'm like, riffs, shred.
Yeah.
It seemed to make sense to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got the chamfered heel. The neck's cool. There's going to be a carve here for my arm.
Nice.
Because I've never been the biggest fan of hard edge for I dig my hand in quite a lot,
Yep.
and on tour that gets a bit tiring. Bridge design's going to change. It's going to have a push-push for splitting the pickups down.
Nice.
It's going to keep the same 5-way. And that's kind of it. And then we're just doing 2 colours. We're going to do 2 different colours. One's going to have an ebony board. One's going to have this maple vibe. I'm mega excited.
Yeah, so stay tuned to the Sweetwater channel because we will be carrying these bad boys and you'll have to come and do us a demo when they come out. Please.
Hundy P.
So there you have it, folks. Great advice from a great player. Thanks for taking the time, my friend. I'm going to ask of you one more favour. Please play us out, as only you can.